Welcome to Paranormal Heart Podcast, Paranormal Talk with Heart and Soul. I'm sorry I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties. For whatever reason, I am streaming live, but it didn't play my little intro, so we're just going to keep going. The show must go on, right? So tonight's segment is streaming live on United Public Radio Network 107.7 New Orleans, 105.3 of the Gulf Coast, YouTube, and any place you find your favorite podcast. And hello, my dear haunted hearts. For segment 90, I am joined by Daniela Simina. I hope I pronounced that right. Daniela is the granddaughter of a folk medicine woman and fairy seer. She grew up in Romania, immersed in the rich local fairy traditions, which I love, and I know a lot of you do as well. Those early years have imprinted her beliefs and later work. In addition to researching and publishing, Daniela teaches classes on energetic rebalancing and esoteric subjects related to folk magic, as well as fairies, the heart of both her personal and professional paths. She is also an author of the books Where Fairies Meet, Parallels Between Irish and Romanian Fairy Traditions, A Fairy Path, the memoir of a young fairy seer in training, and Fairy Herbs for Fairy Magic, a practical guide to fairy herb magic. So please help me welcome Daniela. Hello. How are you?
Hello. I'm doing good. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me, and wholehearted thanks to our lovely audience honoring us with their presence tonight.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I think I do still have a few technical difficulties. There might be a little delay in Daniela's audio and video. I'm not sure. I think I got it fixed. Just wanted to give you all a heads up. And of course, with paranormal, funny things happen sometimes on shows. So before we get into it, I just wanted to say hello. Heidi is in the chat room. Heidi is the biggest fan of UPRN shows. She supports everyone. She's a dear friend. I love her and her family. We all do. So I wanted to say hello to Heidi, her daughter Cass, and her granddaughter Audrey, who is my favorite haunted heart. So,
Hello, Heidi and family.
Yeah, Heidi does know of you. I think she's spoken with you before. I'm not sure, but yeah, she's amazing.
Yes, we did.
I know that, yeah. So to start off the show, sorry, I'm a little frazzled now because of the technical issues. Of course, it has to happen when it goes live. So could you give us your humble beginnings as how you got into your first encounter with fairy realms and how you got into all this?
My humble beginning, summed up in one sentence, I was just kicked into the deep end and I had to learn how to swim. So that's the shortest version of it. The longest version, I grew up with my grandmother, so she was with us, living in the same house, in the same premises. And she was a fairy seer. Now, I have to explain a little the term. In Romanian, there is a specific name for these people who receive their knowledge and skills. They learn their skills from beings that we call fairies. But there is no linguistic equivalent for that specific word, shoimanka, try to say it. So fairy seer, that's the closest thing I could come up with that makes it intelligible to the audience. So my grandmother was one of those people who worked with fairies, but for most part, she kept that side of herself and of her work to herself. So she was trying to keep it somewhat secretive from me, the little 4 years old who was, very nosy and very curious about all things magic, but in particular about fairies. And so it's only so much that you can keep as a secret when you have somebody constantly at your heel and, with the eye at every single keyhole and with the ears against every single closed door. Was me. So when I started to see things. Actually, I always see things, and I took for granted that everyone around me can see the same things that I was seeing.
Yeah.
It came as a surprise at some point that not everyone could see what I was seeing. And encounters started to happen at some point. And when I described to grandmother what kind of encounters I have, she became concerned. Because I'm aware with the side of lore and folklore and literature in particular who depicts fairies as cute and all benevolent, pretty and miniature type of beings. In Romania, our idea of fairies is very different. So they're deity like in terms of power. They have agency over weather, they have agency over people's luck, health, and a number of other things. In other words, they are not to be taken lightly and by no means disrespect. So, and they have various degrees of interest in humans, whether they want humans to work for them, whether they kidnap children, which is something found in Irish fairy lore as well, the aspect of fairies kidnapping children. So my grandmother became concerned, and rightfully so. So she actually started to teach me some things. She realized that it's better for me to be informed than not to be informed. The reason why she was trying to keep everything secret from me was we're also living in a very politically dense situation. So to speak, it was during communist, when the years of communist regime, so that was really heavy. And communist is against anything pertaining to the spiritual and spiritual development, and it's community over the individual always. So nothing that would be an agent of personal empowerment and connection to anything that's outside human capacity and purview was tolerated. A lot of things were flying under the radar. I mean, really a lot of things. But if somebody wanted to harm somebody else, it was enough to start spreading rumors that they have involvements with the occult, or they're practicing divination, or what would be labeled as magic and witchcraft, and they had you. So this is the reason why. So as a kid, big mouth, short-tempered, and my grandmother was afraid to share with me too much from fear that I will go and start speaking too much. Yeah. So, or doing something that could draw too much attention. So that was my beginning.
So once she realized that you could see them, I'm assuming, and I shouldn't assume, that she told you more just for your protection, because if you can see them, she needs to keep you safe.
So in a teeny tiny nutshell, my first encounter where it was like more interactive, because yes, I could see, and I wasn't realizing that what I was seeing weren't really people or like myself. They were a little bit more luminous. They were a little bit more uncertain in terms of, they're uncertain, how to say, a little bit see-through sometimes. So it didn't have like the full consistency of a human body. But as a child, there are not too many things to startle and surprise you and amaze you. I mean, the world is what it is, and you tend to take everything as it comes, and this is it. So that first encounter was like interactive encounter was with someone who appeared like a girl my age, pretty much my age, and our house, the bay was opening in the woods, and she's like, "Do you want to play?" And I'm like, "Sure." And she started to run. I was a very good runner. I'm still a pretty decent runner. So I'm chasing her, and I realize that it doesn't matter how hard I try to catch up, I can't. And I'm telling her, "Hey, we're going way too far." And it's sunset, so evening is coming in. So that was May or something, if I remember well, May, early June. And she says, "Well, when I'm around you, don't worry." And it was something so uncanny, so unnerving in that do you have present in your mind that image from Wile E. Coyote when he stops with his heels into the ground and the cloud of dust, rises? That was me. So stopping dead in my tracks. I'm looking ahead. No, girl, there is an uncanny, the most uncanny and frightening silence imaginable. And I knew that we're in a straight line. So it's that before panic setting. And I had that moment of clarity that, oh, that's the setting sun. My house is in straight line the opposite way. So I start running back probably even faster. And I'm just bolting to see my grandmother and telling her, look, this and this and this happened. And I don't know what it is. But now putting two and two together, I don't think it was a child. And my grandmother's like, no, it wasn't. Now, this experience, then growing up, I started to doubt it and then dismiss it. It's like, no, I must have dreamed that. Especially when you want to fit an adult. There are things that you absolutely want to shut down. You don't want to touch them again. Yep. And there's only so long that you can keep the press down on things. At some point it erupts, which it did. And that's my book, The Memoirs of a Young Seer, Fairy Path. That was actually my healing, because in retrospect, it was a little bit traumatizing.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Your grandmother must have been worried as well when you told her.
She was worried. I'm not sure. So I believe that she was worried that I might have been, prone, or I might have been considered for abduction by this very being. And then when I was a teenager, so in my late teens and young adult, when occasionally this episode would come to my mind, and very thought, because we're living in a materialistic world, like everything is science-based, not only science-based, if it cannot be expressed in units of measure, like millimeters or centimeters or gallon or what have you, it doesn't exist, it doesn't count.
Yep.
So first of all, I didn't want to talk about it. Not talking about it, it didn't benefit me in any way. But then talking about it, I was concerned, ridicule, questioning my mental sanity. And so it happened, it must be somewhere in this self. Barbara Rietti, her talking about Newfoundland and Strange Terrain. That's the name of the book. It's developed from her PhD thesis. And I came across that book and I started to read one episode with witnesses. A mother yanks her kid out from among a group of fairy beings trying to abduct her boy. And then another one and another one. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I went to an Irish PhD school, the school collection. There's a whole collection, hundreds, if not thousands, they say, of stories collected by school children in the 30s. And I found their accounts. So these children collecting stories from the elderly in the village, in the in town, from their own family. And their stories, like secondhand accounts, not like I heard from third or fourth or sixth, generation, no, like secondhand accounts of such encounters and occurrences. And I started assessing everything and realizing, wow, that really happened. That really happened. So, yeah. Grandmother was right to be concerned and want me to have with me or around me the typical apotropaics and fairy, because you don't know.
Do you think there's other people in the family other than yourself and your grandmother who could see them? I just don't know if it's like a generational thing. Like,
I was thinking of it. I believe that my grandmother's grandmother also could see them. Now, I'm aware of my line of my ancestors. I don't like the word lineage. My ancestors on my mother's side, like a few centuries back, 3 or 4 centuries back. So I know that. And I also know that most of them, so there was a family tradition, if you will, of medicine women. Medicine back then, it was never divorced from the magical practice. And if we look in my medical manuscripts that we have from even prior, I'm talking about Western Europe and Northern Europe, I'm talking about Germany and Anglo-Saxon magical manuscripts, we realize that they were never divorced. So you have magic, have medicine, application for medicine. So they were this ritual healers. They were this medicine men and women. I'm only aware of one man. Everyone else, maybe were better of keeping it a secret, but my grandmother's mother, her grandmother, as I said, were into this medicine magic business. And I know almost for sure my grandmother's grandmother was also a fairy seer. So I'm putting 2 and 2 together, and I believe that's where it started to happen. The grandmother's grandmother. Never heard any mention about my grandmother's mother. So my great grandmother, yes, she was famous. Her name is Cassandra, and she was absolutely famous. The healing that she was doing, but I'm sure that the fairy element was present. She could see other spirits. So this is something I know from grandma that everyone could see. One or another, but everyone could see. Yeah. So, yeah.
Can you describe what the fairies look like?
So, they're shapeshifters. I mean, they can take on aspects to blend. So this is why I'm like, okay, let's see what is my perception, what I got to see. As I mentioned, my encounter, like more interactive type of encounter with a child like myself, girl, almost same color of hair like mine, so this dark brown. It was peculiar because in Romania in May it's still chilly. So in the area of the country where I lived, but then in May it's still chilly. And I was wearing a sweater because my grandmother had me wear a sweater, but she was wearing like this summer freely dressed. So that was unusual. And later, so we met again. So she appeared a few times after this in different circumstances. And I couldn't pinpoint what wasn't right about her. Bunny ears here. The eyes. So the eyes were the eyes of a far more mature, like almost a grown-up person. And I did something that she felt terribly disrespected, and not just her, but like I ruined my relationship with the fair folk for a while. And she was gone, and they were for about 20 years. And when she came back, she appeared as a grown-up person, mature woman. And I was looking at her, and I'm like, where do I know you? Familiar, but not. And then she said something that she used to tell me all the time back then. So it was like a catchphrase. And when she said that, I always wear white. My heart skipped a number of beats because I realized who I was interacting with. So yes, when it appeared the second time, she was this like woman, tall, probably a little bit taller. I'm 5'8". She was probably a little bit taller than this. Dressed She was wearing a dress, but not something like ancient or something like Middle Ages, kind of ageless, model.
Mhm.
And light color, so white. That's kind of signature for her, white. And longer hair, so not a short hair like back then, so longer hair, but otherwise looking absolutely like a normal human woman presenting person, a little on the tall side, because if I'm 5'8", she's probably more than 6, so much on the tall side. Another encounter that I had, like fairy man, also on the tall side. One of these gentlemen more like stout, strong build. The other one is more slender. Bottom line, very human looking. There's something that gives them away, something in their presence, but at a glance you couldn't tell. And I also see fairies in the form of lights. It only happened twice in my life. Once it happened right here, this on the premises in the property where I live right now. And before they built some house development past my backyard, there were woods, and there was a place there. I used to call it the Fairy Glen, adopted the Fairy Glen, because I could see this three or four balls of light. They're like tennis balls. You cannot miss those for fireflies. There's no way, and they're floating. And I was curious. That was the first time ever that I saw fairies in form of floating light. And I'm like, what is this? Not making the connection, that this may be beings, because in Romania we do not really. I never had, as a child growing up, I never had the experience of fairy in form of lights. There is no lore that presents them as such, so everybody who had interacted with fairies knows them as human presenting. So I'm going there. At some point I stopped in my tracks and like, wait a minute, what if? So making the connection that I heard here in the United States several stories about fairy beings appearing as and traveling as lights. And yet another form in which I saw fairies was around my grandmother. So one of the times that I managed to summon her properly and see her enacting a full ritual, so it was night. It was interesting. It was June. So about the time that we're now, and it was a full moon, so June full moon, 1977 for the exact year. And 77, I guess. And I saw this silvery shapes, transparent. So it happens at night. I'm perched on the windowsill, second floor, looking from behind the curtains what grandma is doing. It's a book. And I'm seeing the silhouettes like silver and like very tall, but they don't really have consistency of a human person. Occasionally I could distinguish the humanoid form, but for most it was just the silvery shapes, and they moved up her while she was twirling in one direction, and then they're moving also with her. Rub the eyes, open. Is it the moonlight? What is it? They were there. So it went on for several minutes. It's not like you see them, something that flickers, could be anything. So it kept on going for a while. So yes, these are my experiences, and I know that other people perceive them in different ways. And I truly believe that they're of a vast variety. So I don't think anybody can say, I know exactly how fairies look like.
Yeah. Well, that's why I asked you what the fairies look like, because I have heard from other people on other shows, descriptions kind of vary sometimes.
you look at humans, I mean, variety, diversity is such a natural thing. I don't know how we ended up with this idea that something can only look like this. I mean, human, we're tall, we're short, we're different, we have different types of, facial traits, we wear different hairstyles, we have different hair textures, geography and the climate in which we live influence how we are physically built and our metabolism and even our diet and shapes everything. We're a product of the environment, plus the social norms that we adopt and further shape us. If humans are so diverse, why on earth do we expect fairies to be just one kind and argue endlessly? No, this is the right view of fairies. No, this is the right view of fairies. To me, this is pretty nonsensical.
It's kind of like whenever I talk about Bigfoot, depending what part of the world the creature is, they're pretty much the same creature, but you can have different hair colors, the facial features are a little different. So it's just, like you said, a product of their environment.
Yep, very much so. It's beautiful to have diversity. I mean, otherwise it would be boring, everything.
Yeah, exactly. So Kevin, Zed Sun Dragon, if I said that right, entered the chat room and he said, hello. Hello, Daniela. Great to see you, Kevin. He says. Awesome.
Great to see you too.
Have you ever had an encounter that frightened you? Other than the one where the girl was trying to take you through the woods.
Yes, I did. See, I missed this one. Speaking of fairies, so I did have an encounter that really frightened me. And it wasn't so much through its presence as much as it was through its, I wouldn't say absence, but non-presence. I wandered in the woods, as I often do. And I had this inkling, to get off the trodden path, and it's seeing a clearing in the distance, like, yeah, let's go there, and just they can have a snack there and maybe take pictures. And it's all the time I have the feeling I'm not alone. And it's not the feeling that there is another human presence, not that kind of threat. But I'm the feeling that, like, every single tree and every single around watches. I'm used to being in the woods. I'm used to be by myself. So it's not, I mean, I've been wandering in the woods since I was like 4 or 5 years old, like getting lost and being brought home by rangers. Different story for another time. But yeah, so so I'm not afraid of being by myself in the woods. But it was, and it came about suddenly. And at some point I wasn't recognizing anymore where I am. So I was sure in that clearing that I wanted to be in, that I tried to get to. But once I was there, I was looking around and I didn't recognize it. Like, wait a minute, I came from whatever, east, northwest, whatever that was. I came and there was a tree there. If I position myself in the same place, that tree is no longer there. It shifted. Okay, maybe I didn't come from that direction. But then I was moving and I could hear like the echo, like someone making the same type of behind me. I had a friend talking how they were walking, could hear footsteps. And when she stopped, the footsteps, another couple, and then they stop. The same thing. But I was in grasses, like almost knee grass, summertime, and I'm moving, and I could hear the grass rustling behind me. And I'm turning around, and there's no animal. There's nothing. And I'm like, okay, I got it. I'm out of here. Made an offering. My bottle of water. It's like, whoever it is, I don't mean to disturb your peace. Apologies if I have intruded. Lesson learned, I will never step into a place without asking for permission if I am welcome or not. And that was the last time I made the mistake. An offering for peace. Offering of peace. Thank you so much for allowing me and not doing anything with me. And then good luck finding a way out. Yeah. So I could not find my way out. And at that point, I'm like, what did grandmother say? When you're in such a predicament, you turn one clothing item inside out. And I only have my shirt, and I know that I'm alone in the woods, but I still don't feel like taking my shirt off and turning it inside out. So I'm taking my shoes off, turn my socks inside out. And shortly after, I'm looking around. It's like, oh, yeah, I came that way. And just for sake of my own sanity, I stopped, looked back, and I could absolutely recognize the clearing as I saw it the first time I walked in. Never went back to that place, never tried to go back to that place, but that was like the most unsettling, scary thing that has ever happened to me in terms of, encounters. So yeah, the non-presence can be much scarier than the presence, honestly.
Yes. That is creepy. To hear the footsteps behind you and you turn and there's nothing there. That would, even if you were with other people, I think it would still be creepy.
And like close, I'm talking you sense, and I mean I could sense and hear like very close to me.
Yeah.
And it's not like far away. I mean 4 feet behind me. You could could hear, the on the grass. I'm like, turn quickly in that direction. It's like, what's happening?
Yeah.
And there's nobody. And then I get another step, and again behind me, so it's not underneath my feet, so I can tell, well, it's me moving or stepping on something. So it's not. And I can hear it, and turn around, and there's nothing. Look in the grass. So the grass is like a small animal. What is it? Nope. I'm like, okay, I think I got it. Especially when I started not recognize where I am. It's like, where's that tree? And then, the moment I did everything that I should have done in first place, upon entering that space, everything was fine.
Good.
So yeah.
So Kevin has something to say here. It says, as a young boy, I was walking in woods and hit an open area that looked very blurred. I froze in place, had an off feeling, turned around and ran back home.
That's the way to go. I mean, I ran. As soon as I recognized the path, I ran. So I don't know. I was probably about 18, 19 years old. So I wasn't a small kid anymore.
Yeah.
When this happened. So I was in my late teens. I wasn't a small child to So, but I ran anyway. So
it was probably a good idea to do that.
That's wise.
Wow.
If it feels uncanny, that's probably hiding surprises you don't want to face.
Yeah. So, is there a role of intuition that plays in your work as a seer?
Oh, yes, very much so. There is a gut feeling, which that's pure intuition. But then there is also, when your spirit guides give you advice.
Yep.
And sometimes, I don't know if that qualifies with, we can put it under the umbrella of, intuitive qualities, the ability, to connect with the spirit guide and take advice from them. Mm-hmm. But both of them, my own gut feeling, and when when I'm biased, I reach out for divination tools. I like to read runes. I like to read, I mean, for myself, to get more clarity over a situation where I might be telling myself the answer that I actually want to hear. And I realize that I'm telling myself the answer that I want to hear, and that's not really intuitive, that's wishful thinking.
Yeah.
So that's when I go for cards or just go out and take an omen, try to take omens, or ask my guides, my fairy guides, can you please let me know? And then it comes in form of a dream, comes in form of an occurrence that could be trivial, but it happens so much in sync with a question, with what I ask, that it oftentimes provides an answer.
Sorry, you cut out there just for a second. Just the tail end, but I got the gist. Technology sometimes not the greatest.
Yeah, no, I was. I don't know what's happening, but I heard several people complaining about, platforms running nowadays and doing all kind of funny things during podcasts and interviews. So
yeah. Kevin also says he was 12 years old, grew up in the wooded area, and often explored, but he went too deep that time when what he mentioned earlier.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And he said that was in the Richardville, Hamilton, New Brunswick area, my home province.
That sounds lovely.
Yeah, there's a lot of forest area in New Brunswick. It's a small province, like compared to Ontario, where I am now. But yeah, I grew up in the wooded area as well. I never went by myself. I was always either with my parents or with friends. I was always afraid to go by myself. I was afraid to get lost or something. I don't know.
That's good preservation instinct right there. And probably you could, speaking of intuition, maybe it was your gut feeling, your intuition telling you not to go alone because, the uncanny.
I never thought of that.
The uncanny is the uncanny.
Yeah.
So I know you probably had very good intuition ever since.
Yeah, I've had, I call myself sensitive ever since I can remember. I don't call myself psychic because it's not something that I practice or can control. It just so I know things sometimes, and like I said, I don't practice to try and get better at it, but some things do happen sometimes. So this day and age, there's so many people into the fairies. Are there dangers involved in attempting to communicate with fairies? And do you have any advice to give these people that are actually going out to find them?
So I want to preface this by saying that fairies, some people really, really, really want to connect with them based on I don't want to use the word preconceived idea. Let's put it milder. You read a lot of modern fantasy, and that is what shapes your idea of a fairy. And then the next thing you know, it's like, okay, I really connect to a fairy because from what I'm reading in this fantasy book, they feel so cool. What about a fairy spirit guide? So that is that kind of prompting. And I'm going to quote a friend here who said, well, a lot of people are very, very much in love with the idea of fairies, but they are not really ready to accept the reality of fairy. Personally, with fairies, I lean more into the folklore side of things that presents them, as I said early on, very powerful beings, autonomous. They're not in the service of the human mind. The relationship in between the fair folk, fairy beings, and humans, they're symbiotic. Okay, yes, we can help one another. It's important that we have good relationships, the members of one community and another, but they're not here necessarily to serve us or to help us. we are not going to play any crucial role in their lives unless they decide that they need help for something. So respect, mutual respect among members. And depending in what area, what part of the world you are, because for example in Ireland, I'll give here the parallels, Ireland and Romania, because I'm most familiar with these. In Ireland, for example, the piece of advice is stay away. You put iron in your house to keep the fairies, prevents them from entering. If you have a fairy mound you want to leave on your property, which is often the case, you want to leave offerings away from your house. Make sure that you always leave offerings for them because it's customary. So be a good neighbor, you'll have a neighbor, leave it at that. And then, as I said, there is the other pole where fairies are presented, literature or media, as very friendly and interesting beings to be around, and everyone wants to make friends with them. And I'm obviously in the middle because while I keep telling people about they can be dangerous. We have there's tons of sources presenting them as dangerous. They're in Irish folklore. They kidnap, they kill, they maim, disturb their property, and you're in trouble. So nothing like the fairies created by the Victorian era that has a penchant for miniaturizing and make it overly cute and strip it of power. So it's not that. I'm not saying that there are not cute fairies out there. Didn't meet one yet, but it doesn't mean that they are not. I haven't met every single bird or animal that nature has to show us. Doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. So same with fairies. I'm somewhere in the middle. As I said, it's a little bit difficult for me to do because I always was on their list of interesting people. Partly because I was very nosy and curious and attached to my grandmother who was working in partnerships with them. And I made, they're saying, don't make commitments, promises to fairies because these are binding. There's usually no way to wiggle yourself out of it. Unless you fulfill that contract, that promise, you're good. You're going to be able to escape the promise that you made. Mm-hmm. And I was about 9 when in a game. So, and they don't grade on a curve. So, in a game, I started to say something to the effect, "Oh, but I want to be friend forever, and I'm going to."
Yeah.
I want to be your friend forever, and I want to. My grandmother couldn't make it fast enough to literally cover my hands cover my mouth with her hand, silence me, because she realized in what I was putting myself into. And
be careful what you wish for.
So ever since, exactly. Yep. Careful what you wish for. Yep. And I had to deal with the consequences of my promise. It didn't show up right away, but it started to trickle over the years to come. Trickle through over the years to come. And I was like, I don't want to have anything to do with it. Honey, sweet, that's not really, you don't have much of a choice right now. A little bit late. So until you fulfill what you have to fulfill, it's no choice. So my first piece of not even advice, suggestion would be, if you're seeking to enter partnerships with fairies, ask yourself, why do you want it? Is it curiosity? Is it something that really recalls you, like people feel called toward a certain deity and they want to connect with a certain deity, or toward connecting with a certain culture, like somebody wants to delve deep into the Irish pantheon of gods and connect with deities and spirits from, or into the Hellenistic, into the Greek. What calls you? Same with fairy. What exactly drives you in that direction? Curiosity, that's a valid one, but read. The second piece of advice, read the lore. I love fiction. I love fiction and I read fiction, and it's delightful. But I know where to stop considering fiction as true source of information when it comes, to fairies, to gods, to everything. In fiction, it's not a documentary. It's not intended to give you like a documentary. We have history books, we have archaeology, we have other scholarly stuff for that. So fiction serves other purposes. So find the middle ground. There is a lot of fiction that is very well written and develops beautifully motifs that we find in folklore. Mm-hmm. So I like to see how the idea of fairies has developed from the past couple of 100 years to the present. They evolve. So I'm not going to take every bit of everything the way it was practiced and understood 300 years ago and try to apply it forcefully into today, because I don't live 300 years ago, I live now. So educating myself as much as I can and notice how things change over time. In fairy, probably the rate of change is much slower than in the world of human. Time flows differently there. So I have to take that into account as well. So gather as much information, and let's say that I got my mind, I feel my soul's call for the Irish pantheon. Great. I'm going to learn a little bit about the language. I'm going to learn about the culture. I'm going to learn to be respectful toward the sources that are native to the culture and people who are from the culture and are speaking about fairies. And try not to speak over them because they live there. They've inherited this lore. I haven't. I'm learning it. So, which doesn't mean I cannot interact with Irish she. I don't, by the way. So that's not my that's not where my fairy allies are from. But study Irish lore. Nevertheless, I love it. So I'm going to look at what are traditional offerings, again, with the example of Irish fairy beings. What is traditional in Ireland to live as offerings for the good people, as they're known, the good folk over there. In Romania, that's breads and wine and on certain occasions food that is white in color, like boiled eggs or cheeses or milk or like a white chicken. Of course, it's cooked. You don't just get the white chicken. So, but it has to be white. The plumage is white before you cook it. So look in the culture what is customary as offerings and start by living offerings. Speak out your intent. I'm inviting you. Don't start by inviting people in your house. This is very much like when you get to know people at a party and they're like amazing. Wow, I know this people. I know this person. It's like we've been friends for a lifetime. You only spend a couple of hours, a few hours at the party. So it's not always okay. Come to my house. Maybe let's go and meet somewhere and let's do something together and then okay, now we can visit each other in our houses. So make it a gradual process. Don't commit to anything that you're not sure you can honor. Don't rush into agreements because they're binding. Wiggle your way out whenever you feel cornered. It's like, allow me time to think. I'm taking your request or question or proposal very seriously, so I want to ponder over it. Do not lie, because they're very good at finding out. They, by default, don't lie. They're not going to tell the truth in a way that's very clear, so there's a lot of fine print, but nevertheless, fine print is still print. It still appears on the page. If you miss it, you miss it, but it's
still there.
So look for fine print. Take classes with people who know what they're teaching. There's a lot of information there, and I'm not recommending just one teacher, because when you choose a teacher, a person to learn from, it's also a matter of who do you resonate the most with.
Yes.
It's like, 3 math teachers, they can be brilliant. Not all students will perceive them equally charismatic or equally competent. So for teachers, don't stop to learn from just one person. Expose yourself to a multitude before deciding that's the person. 1, 2, 3 teachers, and combine the information. Learn how to meditate, because that's the most way to make contact and receive information. Like the most that I know, through dreams and in meditation and journey type of states. So learn that technology because it's helpful. So yeah, that's kind of, I know this is like a coconut shell.
When my family and I lived in Alberta for a few years, we had a beautiful property. We had a lot and a half. Like, it was really big for the small town that we lived in, and there was trees. Loved it. And there was a pond, a little water pond. So whenever I'd be washing the dishes, I'd look out my great big kitchen window and I'd see my pond. And I would have birds just fly over the pond and do this with their little feet over the water, land on the other side. But there were fairies there as well. It's the only time I ever knew they were there. And
well, in such an environment, yes.
Yeah. And I feel bad because now
have you ever seen them?
No, that was the first time that I knew they were there. And it's just like, this is really cool. And I've never seen them since. But
wow.
We now live in Ontario, and we've had to cut down a couple of trees, and we always plant other trees afterwards. And I just say, the tree was dead, we had to cut it down, but we're planting more. So, but when we were in Alberta, we had a really bad electrical storm and lightning and wind. It was really bad. And there was a couple of trees. Well, one tree fell and took out the power lines, and we didn't have power to the house. Everyone was safe, thankfully, but there's a couple of trees we had to hire somebody to come in to cut them, right? Because they were dangerous. And I felt so bad because we didn't get a chance to plant anymore before we moved. And then I found out that the people who bought the property from us, they cut down a whole bunch of trees, and I'm like, oh no. So I don't know the people, so I don't know if they angered the fairies because they cut down so many trees. I don't know. I'm curious to find out, but
I had so the land right here where I now got quite angry with all the preparations and everything that I've done before. I had a couple of trees, and they're like pines, and the roots are shallow. And when they die, so there are these bugs, and they bore through the tree trunk, which makes it really unstable. And so one of them was even leaning toward the house, and we had to cut a number of them. So it's these 2 big trees, and then 2 others that were small, but were like, by cutting the bigger ones, these were really destabilized. So the roots were kind of, together, and you take one out, so these roots start to float. So the chance of having a tree dropping on the house was big. And I explained, and I made offerings, and I did the best I could. For
they weren't having it.
18 months. For about 18 months, they were not having it. And I worked for like 5 days to energetically do like healing and offerings, and create all kind of portals, and all kind of, offer reassurance that they're still welcome. And there is like so many other trees, because it's like many other trees outstairs for. It's like so many other trees, and I need to plant, and I'll take care of that space, that clearing that I have right in between among the trees. I will take care, and there's going to be grasses, and there's going to be a beautiful place for everyone to come as they please. And finally, this year, with the grasses actually growing and me doing the work that I promised I would, things started to feel, to pacify. But for about 18 months, It didn't feel
That's
right.
a long time.
So all kind of things were happening. Yeah. So I'm like, wow. So I'm not cutting anything anymore. I'm just like, okay, you take care that nothing happens to the house. I'm cutting anything anymore. So
yeah.
And
so
interesting, we just had a storm. Like,
oh, did you?
Yeah, we just got a storm. Yeah, we got a storm every day. Yesterday, and the house before ours, so it's rows of houses. So the house before ours had this big tree in their front yard, was snapped like a toothpick.
Oh.
So, and the house after ours, a little bit ways from ours, has this couple of birches snapped into pieces like toothpicks. Nothing happened on our property.
Wow.
So it's house, and house. This one has a problem. This one has a problem. Knock on wood. Thank you very much. I have my altar here. Thank you very much. Gratitude.
Yeah.
Good. So
they took care of you. Wow. So I have one more question because we are at the end. So what is the most important thing you've learned from the fairy realm that you believe humanity is currently getting wrong?
A number of things. First of all, the fairies are benevolent because, and it's not that there's good fairy, bad fairy. It's like a shark is a shark, you know. It's not a bad shark, it's a shark. If you're in the water and you have a lotion that smells good, you're going to signal the shark that is dinner. So there are creatures who are predatory in nature. So be careful. Fairies are small, not all fairies are benevolent. Not all fairies are nature spirits. Some are, some are not. Not all fairies are eco warriors. Yes, everybody cares pretty much about the environment because it's like everybody has a house and a place to live in, and we should care about it. Like, I don't have to care about every single house on my street, but I'm concerned if one of those catches fire, I'm concerned that it may spread. So in the same vein of thoughts, they do care about the earth and about what humans are doing, but it's not their priority to come and babysit us. They have a lot of wisdom to share, but we have to be humble enough to receive it, ask for it, and be ready to reciprocate. Relationships with fairies are based in reciprocity and mutual respect. There's no room for entitlement. That really ends up badly. So this is what I learned from fairies, and I believe there are a lot of tropes going around trying to, proposing a completely different image that's not really sustainable and kind of ready to take and run with.
Yeah. I didn't even get a chance to ask you about your books, so we're going to definitely have to have you on again so we can delve into your books. Yeah, because we're out of time, unfortunately. Could you please tell the audience where they can find you? Yeah, I know. I mean, it's so interesting. I mean, because I do, obviously I've heard of fairies, but I don't know a whole lot about them. So this is a real treat. And Heidi says, yes, please. She wants to have you come back on as well. So thank you, Heidi.
Absolutely, I'd love to.
Yeah. So this is a real treat for me.
Yes.
Yeah. So could you please tell the audience where they can find you?
For me.
Thank you.
Short answer, everywhere social media. So I have an author on Facebook. It's Daniela Simina. There's Daniela Simina on Instagram. TikTok is a little bit different. It's Whispers in the Twilight. And I also have blog on Blogspot, Whispers in the Twilight. On Blue Sky, also Daniela Simina. I'm trying to be present and active in as many places as possible because I do have events and I have books and writing, and I want people to know about.
Yeah, definitely. Well,
yeah.
Thank you so very much.
Everywhere. Yes.
Thank you so very much, Daniela. And the audience know that I'm going to have the links in the show notes so they'll be able to find you easier. Thank you so very much. And if you have a couple of minutes, just stay put. I'm going to say my farewells. Yeah, I'm going to say farewells to the audience, and then we'll just chat for a couple of minutes if you have time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm here, not running anywhere.
Okay. Thank you so much. So a huge thank you to my special guest, Daniela Simina, and to you, my wonderful haunted hearts, for tuning in. I also want to thank UPRN, 107.7. I almost forgot what it was there. New Orleans, 105.3, the Gulf Coast, for carrying the show. And if you enjoyed tonight's episode, please like, subscribe, share, and comment. It truly does mean the world to me. And if you'd like to be on the show, you have guest or topic ideas, or just want to say, hey, Kat, how's it going? What's going on in your world? Drop me an email at paranormalheart13@gmail.com. I'd also like to hear from what country are you listening from. This is always intrigues me. So until we meet again, take care of yourselves and each other. Much love to you all.